mascot platformers, shoot 'em ups, racing games, beat 'em ups, fighting games, and even we saw the early signs of first-person shooters on this console. The Sega Mega Drive was Sega's 16-bit follow-up to Sega's Master System. So, sit back and enjoy. Released in Japan in 1988 and America in 1989, but going by the name of the Sega Genesis, and in Europe in 1990, but reverting to the name Sega Mega Drive. The Sega Mega Drive packs a Motorola 6800 CPU clocked at 7.6 MHz and a Zilog Z80 subprocessor, which was mainly used to control the controller sound and controller hardware as well. This also allows the system to have pitch perfect compatibility with the Master System using one of the add-ons like the Master Bass Converter. The sound is run by a Yamaha YM6212 for FM sound, and also a Texas Instruments SN76489 PSG. So the system can provide stereo output, but with the Mega Drive 1, a custom cable is needed, so you can plug a 3.5mm jack in the headphone jack, which is located on the console. In 1993, Sega released a smaller version of the system called the Mega Drive or Genesis 2. This removes the volume adjust as well as a headphone jack, as well as the port on the back, which would allow you to plug in a modem for online play. While this wasn't a big concern because the vast majority of people didn't use it, other variations of the to allow online play did exist in the form of cartridges, such as the X-Band, which was released in America. So, the Sega Mega Drive had a legendary lineup of add-ons. As I mentioned, the power bass converter to allow you to play Master System games on the original system, and also a CD add-on which added scrolling and rotation for background layers to expand the system's capability, as well as the 32X add-on, which was used to boost the 16-bit hardware to 32-bit hardware. Games come in hard cases similar to the Sega Master System games and come on ROM cartridges. Well, obviously CD games came on CDs and come in dual layers, which is a bit confusing because in the PAL regions especially, the dual cases were double dual cases, so you could put two CDs in. As for the controller, originally packed in the Mega Drive, it consisted of 3 face buttons, a D-pad, as well as a start button. For the first time ever though on a Sega system, allowing you to pause the game without getting up and pressing a button on the system. While this is a large controller, it's still very comfortable in the hands, but later on, Sega released a 6-button controller with a smaller form factor, which had, 6 buttons on the front, as well as a mode button on the top, which was never really used. But much smaller form factor, and I personally prefer this controller, and I recommend it to everyone, mainly due to the fact that there is some great fighting games on the system which do take advantage of this. This is Sega's most successful system, selling 30.75 million worldwide, and still being sold in Brazil through Tectoy, and with over 900 games released on it, there is always something to play. So, that's a little bit there about the Sega Mega Drive. So, just to add another note to this as well, the Sega Mega Drive can support RGB through SCART. You can get cables readily online. What I would search for though is just put RGB, Sega Mega Drive, SCART cables for that. You will need obviously some sort of converter if your television set does not have a SCART socket in there. I do recommend though using a upscaler just like the OSSC. Talking about that as well, all footage that you'll see today is captured on the OSSC at 2x line double mode as well. So let's talk about some games, shall we, because there is a lot of great games on the system, and the system is well known for its wide variety of arcade ports. So let's sit back and enjoy, but most of all,
rise from your grave.
So let's begin with Altered Beast. This is a part of the original arcade game released, and the game was released on the system at the launch of the Mega Drive. This is a standard beat 'em up in where you play as a Greek centurion brought back from the dead by Zeus to rescue his daughter Athena. So, how does the game play? Well, the game plays pretty much like any early beat 'em up. You walk to the right and battle enemies by punching and kicking and doing like jump kicks and stuff like that as well. When you reach the end of a stage, you obviously will fight a boss. Where the game is unique is where you with the power-up system. So you collect power-ups throughout the stage, and each power-up will alter your appearance slightly, make you more and more muscular. Once you have collected three power-ups, you will become the Beast. So this can take form of a werewolf or a dragon. Each stage has a different beast that you will become. While transformed, your attacks are much more powerful, and you also have an alternative attack which will replace your jump ability in that case. Also, where the game kind of spreads itself out, so for bosses, obviously becoming the Beast is your main way to beat them. You can fight the bosses without, but the boss will show up 2 or 3 times before letting you fight. Graphics in the game are simple, but the game does make use of giant character sprites, which allows the game to look more detailed than it really is. Controls, on the other hand, are simple. It's only got like 3 buttons that you use, and the only buttons that you really need to use are an attack button and a jump button. While the levels don't allow a lot of movement, not like a normal beat 'em up like Streets of Rage, all you do is push right, but enemies will come and attack you from both sides, so you've got to keep your guard up there. Sound in the game is alright. Nothing though that I won't listen to the soundtrack outside of the game. While it does fit the game perfectly, it's not something that I would listen to outside of that. Where the soundtrack shines though is with the use of digitized voices, and this is one of the reasons why the game is famous and has a lot of meme potential, with famous lines like
Rise from your grave.
Welcome to your doom.
As you see, pretty cringeworthy, but still pretty funny. This game is one of the easy games to get on the system, and it's one of the cheaper ones as well, with a lot of them being made, and obviously with it being like kind of a pack-in title, it's relatively cheap to get hold of. It won't take you long to beat it. You can normally beat it in about 30 minutes, but your 30 minutes of gameplay, you will have a lot of fun doing it. So, let's move on to what I believe, personally, is one of the best and most must-have games on the system, Streets of Rage 2. This is quite obviously the sequel to Streets of Rage, This is more or less a more polished version of that game with more characters to choose from, much better graphics and music. In the game you can choose from 4 characters, each with their very own stats, with some being more powerful but move a lot slower, while some move a lot faster but have weaker attacks. You choose from Max, Axel, Blaze and Blade, and you are on a mission to save Adam from the first game, from Mr. X, the villain from the first game as well. So you run through 8 stages throughout your adventure, fighting various enemies, starting from weak-ass henchmen, to motorcycle goons, and to ninjas, amongst many more. Each stage is comprised of various environments. So first you could be fighting in the streets, and next you'll be fighting in an arcade. This does provide the game with a lot of variety when it comes to the environments. So the way the game mainly improves on the first game, I believe, is with the attacks. So in the first game you only got a standard attack as well as a special attack. Now and a jump. With this one you have 2 special attacks which are different for each character, as well as a sub attack which you can activate by pressing forward twice on the D-pad and pressing the B button, which means there is a lot of replay value in trying out different characters as well, because some characters have different attacks. Where the game is graphically lush with a lot of details, with a lot of scrolling backgrounds and foregrounds, where the game shines is in the music. Composed by Yuzo Koshiro, and the soundtrack demonstrates techno and house influences with distorted electro synths and trancey electronic textures in the game, and panning audio, which fits the early 90s aesthetic. As mentioned, this is a must-have game on the system. I do recommend picking it up, and if you have a friend to play with you, the 2-player is fantastic. If you haven't got this game already, add it to your collection, or if you don't have a Mega Drive, it is on countless Mega Drive compilations. The next game I would like to show off is Alicia Dragoon. This game was released in 1992. In Alicia Dragoon, you control the protagonist, Alicia, in her quest to save the world by defeating the evil forces that killed her father. The game itself consists of 8 side-scrolling environments, or 8 levels. Alicia has the ability to jump across gaps and kill enemies that stand in her way. Each stage is completed by defeating the boss at the end. Alicia attacks by shooting streaks of lightning from her hands. The attack automatically targets enemies in range, but gets weaker with each volley as Alicia needs to power that up. It can be recharged by just stopping attacking for a while, so the best thing is just to press it keep it held in for a bit and then come back for herself. If you do leave it though, when it gets to full power, Alicia can use a large attack which will clear the screen for you. Helping Alicia in her quest are her pet monsters. These creatures fly around the heroine on their own, attacking the foes and blocking enemy attacks from hitting her. There are 4 pets, each with its very own type of attack. The Dragon Frey spits fireballs, and the Boomerang Lizard hurls boomerangs. The Thunder Raven emits thunder blasts that affect enemies across the screen, and the Ball of Fire which burns enemies on contact. Only one pet can fight alongside Alicia, and you have to activate and deactivate them whenever using, so it does provide a strategic element to the game. Over the course of the game, Alicia and her monsters can improve their abilities by collecting power-ups. These enhancements items are placed throughout the first 7 stages and mostly in hidden locations. The various power-ups can heal Alicia and her monsters, increasing their maximum life bars, improve their attacks, or grant invulnerability if needed, for a certain amount of time anyway. If all life bars are lost during the monsters that you have as pets, they can be revived by getting a revival power up for them, but otherwise you wouldn't be able to use them. The game itself is very straightforward, very simple, but again I think this is one of the hidden gems on the system, and I do recommend for anyone who loves like kind of a run and gun type game to pick up this one. So that's 3 games there on the system that I think you should definitely take a look at. As I say, the system has got a lot of good games on there. You've got like, you know, obviously Sonic games on there. I didn't really want to cover them because I've obviously been taught enough and stuff like that as well. I just wanted to go through 3 games that I like. Big games like you've got Sonic the Hedgehog, Gunstar Heroes, E-SWAT, Road Rash, various games like that as well. As I say, there is a lot of good games on the system. One of the things that I would recommend getting on this system as well are the Mega Games collection. So you got Mega Games 1, 2 and 3, and there's Mega Games 6 as well. These are just compilations of game discs. Also there was a Mega Drive collection sort of thing put onto the Sega CD as well with a Sonic compilation on the Sega Saturn. So, hope you like this video. If you like it, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. Feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. But as I say at the end of every video, keep on gaming.